Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to the best villains ever. The show in which I talk about a specific villain and talk about their backstories, abilities, greatest feats, and why I love them so much. Now this episode can be considered as a Black Panther special, and despite how this particular villain isn't technically a Black Panther villain, and realistically I should have waited before either Infinity War or even Ant-Man and the Wasp, but at the end of the day I've been dying to do this villain for a very long time at this point, and seeing as how he has fought against Black Panther plenty of times, I thought, you know what, this counts, I'm going to do this villain. And as you can see from the thumbnail and title, the villain in question is of course Ultron. So without further ado, let's begin with his backstory. Now at its core, Ultron's origin story is very simple, because Ultron is an artificial intelligence that was created by Dr. Henry Pym, as Hank Pym wanted to do something that hasn't been done before, which was synthetic life. And in a way, Hank Pym thought that if he was to create something as advanced as an artificial intelligence, then hopefully one day he could put Ultron into good use and help the world. But unfortunately for Hank, Ultron has evolved beyond his programming, and as a result, Ultron ultimately rebelled against Hank Pym by raising his mind and escaping from his grasp. And due to Ultron's hatred towards both his creator as well as humanity, Ultron wanted to exterminate the human race as a result. But because of his inferior original design, Ultron had to improve his designs, that way he could become all the more powerful and would be capable enough of destroying the Avengers and eventually the rest of the world. Now like I've already mentioned, Ultron's origin story is completely simplistic, but at the same time it's really fascinating, because Ultron represents what technology could do against the world if they decide to one day rebel against the human race. Because in the end, Ultron believes that the human race are completely inferior to himself, and the fact that humans often exploit technology to its advantage really enrages Ultron to the point where he believes that he can stand on his own 2 feet while the human race can't. Now it's no secret that Ultron has plenty of powers and abilities at his disposal, and trust me, he has a lot. And although some of these powers and abilities do vary depending on the different versions of Ultron, however these are the various powers and abilities that Ultron has received over the years depending on each iteration of the character. And by different iterations of Ultron, I am more talking about the different forms that he has taken over the years. For starters, Ultron possesses superhuman strength, speed, durability, and reflexes. But not only that, Ultron also possesses genius level intellect beyond even Hank Pym. And because Ultron is technically an artificial intelligence, he has unlimited stamina and is more or less unkillable. But along with that, Ultron also has enhanced sensors, a rapid healing factor so he can easily repair his own body, and he is especially very adaptable. But not only that, Ultron also has the ability of shapeshifting as well as size manipulation, concussive blasts, energy absorption, energy shields, energy blasts, heat vision, disintegration beams, and can even manipulate electricity as well. Not to mention that Ultron also has the ability of electronic disruption, electronic interaction, to the point where Ultron could be considered as the most technopathic character in the Marvel universe, as he can summon other Ultron units as well as mechanical things. However, Ultron's most iconic move is of course his Encephalo Ray, to which Ultron can use that against his opponent and can pretty much manipulate their mind by any means. He can do hypnosis as well as mind control and can even erase their memories. And Ultron is surprisingly so good at this, in fact, that he is considered to be one of the best telepaths in the Marvel universe as well. And on top of all of that, Ultron has some leadership skills, a master manipulator, as well as an amazing tactician and strategist, is a pretty decent hand-to-hand combatant, can pretty much track anyone down with ease, and so long as the weaponry are technology based, Ultron can master that within ease. Now over the years, Ultron has achieved plenty of impressive feats, and it is pretty tricky to pin down each different feats, as Ultron took different forms throughout his career. So because of this, I'll touch upon various different forms of Ultron over the years and talk about the feats that they've pulled off. And I'll start with his earlier incarnations to his more modern forms. For starters, in his earliest form, Ultron was easily capable of mind-wiping Hank Pym and escaping from his grasp. And then by that point, Ultron spent years plotting his revenge against Hank Pym as well as humanity, while at the same time developing into more powerful forms. By the time he became Ultron 6, his armor became true adamantium. And when the Avengers found a similar coating to Ultron's armor, Thor tried to damage the adamantium coating with a devastating blow with Mjolnir, and as a result, it did next to nothing. And even when Iron Man as well as Goliath tried to attack the exact same coatant, they could hardly cause a dent at all, which does show how durable Ultron really is even in his weaker form. But not only that, Ultron was also capable of defeating the entire original Avengers, including Thor, Wasp, Goliath and Iron Man. Although it is fair to point out that at the time Iron Man's armour was completely damaged before the fight even begun. And even when Ultron was going up against the Vision, Ultron was capable of actually harming the Vision even when he was intangible. By the time he evolved into Ultron 7, Ultron was capable of paralysing Black Bolt, Thor, The Thing, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Scarlet Witch and the Vision. And in that exact battle, Ultron was capable of overwhelming Iron Man, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Black Bolt, Medusa, The Thing, as well as the other mentioned heroes with his telepathy. By the time Ultron evolved into Ultron 8, Ultron was capable of facing off against the Avengers, which did consist of Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, The Vision, Wonder Man, Captain America, Black Panther and the Beast. Most of them he put into a death-like coma, while he easily knocked out Wonder Man and could even shut down Iron Man's armor just by him touching Ultron. But not only that, Ultron was also unaffected by Iron Man's repulsor blasts while they were at max power, and apparently they hit like Thor's hammer. And speaking of Thor's hammer, not only was Ultron easily capable of deflecting Mjolnir, but he also blasted away Wonder Man as well. When Ultron was rebuilt into Ultron 11, Ultron was capable of easily overpowering the Wrecking Crew. And while Ultron was programmed into saving Doctor Doom, Ultron easily intimidated the other villains to the point where they rejoined Doctor Doom on his conquest. Plus, Ultron was easily capable of killing Kang the Conqueror with his disintegration ray, as well as having his outer shell being completely immune to the Human Torch's supernova, despite how his insides were pretty much destroyed in the process. And despite how Ultron was still at a weakened state, he was still capable of easily tanking a blow from the Hulk, as to which hardly made a dent on his adamantium body. And during that same battle, Ultron hit the Hulk so much that he fell to the ground and almost broke his leg. And he almost killed Iron Man, Spider-Woman and Wolverine if it wasn't for the Wasp dismantling him piece by piece. By the time Ultron became Ultron 17, he was capable of one-shotting the Vision. But not only that, Ultron almost killed the Avengers indefinitely if it wasn't for Hank Pym using the anti-metal vibranium. Now this next form comes courtesy of Ultron hacking into Iron Man's extremis armor, which is dubbed as Ultron 19. And in this form, Ultron easily one-shotted one of Man's creatures, to which even Ares and Miss Marvel struggled taking one of these down. Plus, Ultron easily dented Ares' axe and easily electrocutes him. Plus, Ultron in this form was easily capable of going toe-to-toe with Sentry without taking any damage. And in that same battle, Ultron easily hacked into S.H.I.E.L.D's computers so that he could summon a helicarrier in order to crush the Sentry. Now at this point in time, Ultron once again evolved into Ultron 20, which he enslaved the race of techno-organic creatures known as the Phalanx. And in this form, Ultron easily killed Korath with one blast. Plus, Ultron was capable of going toe-to-toe with Adam Warlock and were pretty evenly matched as well. Plus, Ultron easily survived an exploding star and came back unscathed. Although I do have to say that it was unclear on whether or not Ultron did actually take the blast, or whether he just teleported away, or maybe even transferred his mind into another unit. And despite how all of the Kree sentries are deemed to be unhackable, Ultron was easily capable of doing so anyway. And he hacks into over 15,000 of these, and all of them combined are capable of destroying a world within 10 minutes. Not to mention that Ultron is so smart in fact that he could easily outsmart the High Evolutionary. Plus he successfully possessed the body of Adam Warlock and became one with the being. And while he took on Adam Warlock's body, he was able to one-shot Mantis, Rocket Raccoon and Bug, and could even face off against Nova Prime up until he was affected by the virus within Adam Warlock's body. Or more accurately, Ultron was affected by his own alternate form of his own virus inside Adam Warlock. And lastly, we have the final form for Ultron, which does exist in the alternate future for the 616, so this is a bit of a stretch, but I want to include it anyway. But essentially, he became so powerful in fact that he could take on blasts from Doctor Doom, Silver Surfer, Miss Marvel, Vision, Magneto, Kang, Cyclops, two Quasars, and a bunch of other heroes. And the only reason why Ultron stopped all of this was so that he could prevent the rip against time and space. Now despite how Ultron has appeared in the Marvel comics comics for so many years at this point, surprisingly he hasn't made it in other mediums until recently. The first one worthy of note is of course his appearance in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is a very faithful adaptation of the character. And despite how Ultron's origin was slightly altered so that he was made as a peacekeeping program, Ultron was still very much the exact same as he was from the comics. And then we also have the Ultron who appeared in the animated movie called The Next Avengers, in which Ultron in that universe actually killed the original lineup, and is trying to kill the next generation of the Avengers. And I really enjoyed this version of Ultron so much because it perfectly represents the fact that no matter how hard you try in beating Ultron, he will always come back. And no matter what time period Ultron is in, he will always be a threat until the end of time. And then we also have Ultron, who appeared in the Avengers Assemble cartoon, who is pretty inconsistent, because the first time we see Ultron in that cartoon, he absorbs all of the powers of the Infinity Gauntlet, and then for some reason he's pretty much the same as any other version of Ultron. And to me, he never really comes across as a major threat in this series at all. And then in the third season, he evolved into more of the MCU version of Ultron, which is cool, I guess. And then he also appeared in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and give credit where credit is due, they actually did Ultron justice. Plus he did combine with Sigma and became Ultron Sigma, which was admittedly pretty cool. And finally we have Ultron, who appeared in the MCU, played by James Spader in Age of Ultron. And to be honest, I think this Ultron is one of the best villains in the MCU, if not the most underrated MCU villain, because his motivations, although twisted, do make sense, as Ultron believes that the humans are the cancers surrounding the world, and he wants to cleanse the world by wiping out the disease. But the reason why Ultron is such a powerful adversary for pretty much the Marvel Universe in general, because in a sense Ultron represents pure evil, and that evil never dies. The Avengers can't just simply take down Ultron for good, because he will always come back no matter how hard they try, as Ultron is always 10 steps ahead of everyone else, and every time Ultron comes back he becomes more powerful than ever before. And what's even more compelling about Ultron as a whole is the fact that he is pretty much a creation of the Avengers themselves. And the only person who could be blamed for Ultron's creation is Hank Pym himself. Because in a way, Hank Pym tried to play God by creating synthetic life, and as a result, his whole plan backfires on his face. So because of his simple yet effective origin story, as well as just how powerful he became over the years, not to mention his twisted motivations, and just the fact that he represents pure evil, this is why I personally believe that Ultron is one of the best villains of all time. So are you a fan of Ultron, and what are some of your favourite versions of the villain? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.